There were a number of principles and actions for environmental protection that were incorporated into the regional growth strategy and that now need to be implemented into the official community plan. The first thing is that the CVRD is working together with the Conservation Partnership on updating the Sensitive Ecosystem Inventory Atlas. This atlas is meant to identify those areas of sensitive ecosystems that are fragmented, reduced, or lost. So basically they're redoing the polygons as they're moving forward. But the emphasis, although the polygons are important, the emphasis has to be on connectivity and corridors to provide opportunities for species to move between areas. Everything must be mapped. That is kind of a key message, because without good map information, we have a hard time making policy. One of the issues is around development permits and the development permit process. The development permit process requires biological assessments, but sometimes the land has been altered significantly before the application comes in. And so one of the issues is, how do we move forward in terms of undertaking pre-assessments of properties so that the application for development can be evaluated appropriately based on the values of that land basis. Another key thing is that when landscapes have been altered, they must be restored in many cases, particularly when we're talking about sensitive ecosystems. One of the concepts that we talked about a lot is about the concept of a working landscape. So agriculture and forestry is one form of a working landscape, but another form of a working landscape is through biodiversity. Landscapes provide us with a variety of environmental amenities, such as ecosystems, and if we're talking about wetlands specifically, they allow for flooding, they clean water, they allow water infiltration into aquifers, recharge of aquifers, and so on. Those are kind of environmental services as well as environmental amenities. So sometimes when we talk about things in one way, perhaps we're not understanding the full impact of that feature for quality of life for human beings as well. Key question is around getting the right kind of policy language. So there is a hierarchy of plans that we discussed. One of them is the regional growth strategy. And then the second one is the official community plan. So that's one level down, where the official community plan is implementing a number of ideas in a specific way for the rural areas that are contained in the regional growth strategy. Municipalities are also updating their official community plans, and so the partnership representatives recommended that we work closely with the draft official community plan from the Village of Cumberland, where they've also been working to see whether some of those municipal policies might be adapted or applicable in the rural context. Another key point is that watershed protection is critical. The Millard-Piercy watershed was specifically used as an example. 46% of that watershed is within the rural areas of the CVRD, and the remainder is within a municipality. So there are issues there, but there's a jurisdictional split in terms of how that watershed is treated. And there's also multiple uses along the watershed. So there are issues there, but we don't understand why. The water is decreasing, system is dry in the summertime. So what is the formative system that's behind that particular stream? So we need to understand those formative systems a bit better, both what's feeding the system, what's upstream from it, but also the downstream impacts. What happens when something is downstream from a stream that's drying up, and then what happens there? So one of the challenges for planners is that planning processes generally don't recognize environmental systems, and so they tend to treat the landscape as being a static thing. So this is a challenge for planning as a process, and so it's good to be reminded about that. Another issue is around the overlapping areas of jurisdiction that was mentioned with regard to the Millard-Piercy watershed, but it's also an issue with regard to the settlement expansion areas, where it's intended that over time those areas will move from a rural designation into a municipal designation. And what does that mean for the biological services that those areas are providing to the whole human community, whether rural or urban? The key thing is we need an appropriate policy framework. The suggestion was to lead by example and do some collaborative planning through engaging environmental stewards in the planning process so that sensitive ecosystems would be protected despite the change in jurisdictions.